normal for rappers to brag about crimes in their songs to look tough. Most of them are just acting. They rap about guns, bodies, and street life. But in reality, they wouldn't even hurt a fly. Tay K is not one of those rappers. By 16, he already had a real criminal record: robberies, home invasions, and eventually murder. The wildest part is that the camera he stole from a man during a deadly robbery is the same camera he later used to film the music video that made him famous. Tamor Travan Macintyre, known as Tay K, was born on June 16, 2000 in Long Beach, California. His life was chaotic from the start. His parents were broke, unstable, and already deeply involved in gang life. Both were members of the Baby Insane Crips, a violent Crips set recognized by blue and gray colors. Not long after Tay K was born, his father was sent to prison for gang activity, leaving everything on his mother, who was dealing with mental health issues, drugs, and her own violent past. In an attempt to reset, she moved with the kids to Las Vegas, but nothing improved. The poverty, addiction, and instability all followed. Eventually, social services removed Tay K and his sister Kayla and placed them into foster care. Foster system didn't save them. Nobody wanted to adopt both siblings together, so they bounced from one temporary home to another, never staying long, never building roots. They had almost no contact with their parents. No real birthdays, no real Christmas, no real feeling of home. That abandonment turned into deep emotional wounds. As they grew older, those wounds showed up as anger, resentment, and rebellion. When Tay was 10 and Kayla 12, their father was released from prison after around a decade. Trying to make things right, he fought for and won custody of his kids and moved them to Arlington, Texas, promising to finally give them the life they deserve. But years of neglect don't disappear just because someone says, "I'm back." The kids had grown up without rules, without trust in adults, and without stability. Suddenly, there was a strict father in their life trying to lay down the law. He worked long hours to pay the bills, so he wasn't around much. And when he was home, they clashed constantly. Their father tried to build a normal home, even looking for a partner who could be a mother figure. But every relationship failed. No one wanted to deal with these damaged, rebellious kids. As things fell apart again, his frustration turned into anger. Discipline slid into physical abuse. At school, things were no better for Tay K. He hated being there, skipped classes, got into trouble, and earned himself a reputation as a problem student. Teachers didn't like him, other kids didn't accept him. He felt like an outsider everywhere he went. In the middle of all this, Tay K discovered rap. He met a small circle of friends who shared his love for music, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he belonged to something. Together, they formed a rap group called Daytona Boys in 2014 with members Tay K, his friend Ben, and Eric Johnson. They recorded songs however they could and uploaded them to SoundCloud, hoping to blow up. They managed to get a few local shows at private parties and small clubs in Arlington, but the money was tiny and the fame was mostly in their heads. They weren't just trying to be rappers, they wanted to be real street legends. After every show, any small provocation could turn into a fight. Since music wasn't bringing in money, they started getting into serious crime, guns, intimidation, and robberies. For them, crime was not only income, it was an image. Each robbery was another stripe, another way to prove they were really about that life. This attitude led them straight into their first deadly incident. On New Year's Eve, going into January 1, 2016, in Denton, Texas, the Daytona Boys performed at a private party. After the show, they moved around acting like stars. But in reality, they were broke SoundCloud rappers. At the party, they fixated on two college girls, Sarah Much Lechner and her friend Lexi, who were out celebrating with friends. The crew's behavior crossed the line from flirting to harassment, making the girls uncomfortable. Sarah and Lexi tried to ignore them and just enjoy the party. Around 2 a.m., Sarah and her friends decided to leave for another gathering. They got into her car and drove off. At a red light, and SUV with tinted windows pulled up next to them. The windows rolled down, revealing the Daytona Boys. They started with fake, friendly lines like, "Why so serious? Don't you want to have fun?" When the girls didn't respond, the tone shifted to aggression and vulgar sexual comments. The girl's friend stepped in, saying the comments were wrong and they didn't want any trouble. That only escalated things. The smiles vanished and the threats started. Classic, you don't know who you're messing with. When the light turned green, Sarah did the smart thing and sped off, trying to get away. The Daytona boys chased them. In the SUV, Santana Sage pulled out a gun and fired 3 shots at Sarah's car while driving. Inside Sarah's car, chaos took over. Everyone ducked and screamed, not fully realizing at first that Sarah herself had been hit while still driving. The vehicle lost control and slammed into a light pole. The SUV briefly pulled up alongside the wreck. Faces met for a moment, then the Daytona boys fled. Sarah's friends rushed her to the hospital, but she died at just 20 years old. The shooting triggered a quick police investigation. Authorities identified the shooter as Eric Jamal Johnson, aka Santana Sage, a former Marine. He was arrested, the evidence stacked up, and he was sentenced to 44 years in prison. Tay K and Pimptistic, as minors who hadn't fired the gun, were not charged in that case. Tay K's name wasn't even mentioned in court. For most teenagers, that kind of close call might feel like a wake-up call. For Tay K, it felt more like proof he was untouchable. In July 2016, he and Pimptistic moved on to an even more ambitious crime, a home invasion targeting a dealer named Zachary Belote. Zachary's teenage girlfriend, Mia Santoro, told them he kept drugs and a lot of cash at his house. The plan was simple on paper. Mia and some girlfriends would go to the house, flirt with Zachary and his roommate Ethan Walker, and distract them. Meanwhile, 4 males, including Tay K, waited nearby. At the right moment, the door would be left open as a signal. As night fell, the vibe inside the house grew tense. Ethan and Zachary were suspicious. The girls were nervous and unnatural in their flirting. At one point, one of the girls left the front door slightly ajar, signaling the crew. Around 10 p.m., 4 men burst in. Son Robinson and Letharian Merritt, both armed, Pimptistic with brass knuckles, and Tay A unarmed but present. They shouted, threatened, and demanded drugs and money. Ethan and Zachary insisted they had almost nothing, just a small amount of weed. The intruders didn't believe them. The tension exploded when Letharian fired a shot into Ethan's abdomen. Scene fired 2, hitting Zachary in the shoulder. The attackers fled almost empty-handed. Zachary survived the shoulder wound, got his own gun, and ran outside to chase them. But they were already gone. When he came back in, Ethan was bleeding heavily on the floor. He died minutes later. Police didn't take long to round up everyone involved. This time, Tay K couldn't stay in the shadows. He was interrogated and quickly broke down crying, admitting he took part in the robbery, but insisting he wasn't armed and that hurting anyone wasn't planned. Because he was a minor and cooperated, he was placed on house arrest instead of being immediately locked up. He was sent to live with his older sister Kayla, under heavy surveillance, cameras in the apartment, and an ankle monitor tracking his every move. For about 8 months, Tay K lived a very different life stuck inside, mostly at the computer. Online, he still acted like a gangster, talking big on Twitter. But in reality, his days were boring and repetitive. Everything changed when he learned that prosecutors were going to try him as an adult for the Ethan Walker case. That meant real time, not a slap on the wrist. Furious and unwilling to face that, he cut off his ankle monitor and ran. And instead of staying quiet, he bragged about it online, tweeting something along the lines of, "Fuck this house arrest, fuck the police, they're gonna have to catch me in the streets." That tweet went viral and turned him into an internet figure, part anti-hero to some, a dangerous fool to others. While on the run, he went to San Antonio, Texas, staying with Pimptistic. He didn't exactly hide, he ordered delivery, was recognized by fans, and openly bragged that the cops were after him. During this time, he committed more violent crimes, including the brutal robbery and beating of 65-year-old Auden Pepe, whom he ambushed, robbed at gunpoint, and then beat so badly that the man suffered multiple fractures and a brain hemorrhage. Tay K dragged him into a wooded area and left him, assuming he had killed him. Miraculously, a jogger found Skip and got him help in time. On April 23, 2017, while still a fugitive, Tay K took things even further. He and a group arranged to meet 23-year-old photographer Mark Saldivar in a Chick-fil-A parking lot to buy a camera. Mark, son of Mexican immigrants and active in the local rap scene, thought he was making a legitimate sale. Once inside a car with them, smoking and talking, the vibe suddenly flipped. A gun was drawn. Mark was robbed of his camera and forced out of the vehicle. Panicking, he ran and shouted for help. The group decided they couldn't let a witness escape. They tried to run him over with the car. Mark jumped onto the hood and kicked at the windshield, finally breaking it and briefly stunning the people inside. In that brief chaos, Mark had a chance to get away. But before he could escape, the car stopped, and Tay K got out with a gun. He aimed and shot Mark in the back. Mark collapsed and didn't get up. The group sped off, unaware that every second of the attack had been caught on a parking lot surveillance camera. This time, the evidence was too solid, and the crime too serious for the system to overlook, even considering Tay K's age. About a month later, Pimp Tistic was arrested on murder charges with a massive bail set. Hearing that, Tay K fled to Elizabeth, New Jersey, to hide with someone from the music world. Instead of going underground, he decided to capitalize on his situation. Using the same camera stolen from Mark, he filmed the music video for The Race, a song openly bragging about being on the run, dodging cops, and living that criminal life. The track was essentially a taunt to the police and a confession to the streets. On June 30, 2017, officers tracked Tay to a house in New Jersey and arrested him. Even then, he tried to manipulate the situation, first by pretending he had overdosed on pills, then by claiming to hear demonic voices. After brief hospital and psychiatric evaluations, he was cleared and extradited back to Texas. Meanwhile, the video for The Race dropped just a couple of hours after his arrest. It blew up online. It went viral, entered the Billboard Hot 100, and eventually racked up hundreds of millions of views with big artists making remixes. Ironically, Tay K never got to perform it live on tour or enjoy its success. He was behind bars the whole time. In court, that same song and video became key evidence against him. Prosecutors argued that The Race, his tweets, and his behavior while on the run showed a complete lack of remorse and a pattern of glorifying violence. The first major trial was the Ethan Walker home invasion case. Some early discussions had included the possibility of a relatively lenient outcome, but his escape from house arrest and additional crimes destroyed any chance of that. His co-defendants received long sentences. One controversial figure in the case was Mia Santoro. At first, people were angry that she might receive a lighter sentence, seeing it as racial bias. Later, it came out that she had been forced into sexual exploitation as a young teen by another girl in the circle, Ariana, and had been badly abused and let down by authorities, which led to a drastically reduced sentence and probation instead of years in prison. Tay K, however, had no such sympathy from the court. In July 2019, he was found not guilty of capital murder, which could have meant the death penalty, but guilty of murder and other related charges. Under Texas's law of parties, if you participate in a violent felony like robbery and someone dies, you can be convicted of murder even without pulling the trigger. For his role in Ethan Walker's death, Tay K was sentenced to 55 years in prison, more than some older co-defendants. Later, in the separate case for the murder of Mark Saldivar, he received an additional 80-year sentence. At one point, he appeared in court with a large scar on his neck. When the judge asked, he dismissed it, giving no real explanation. To this day, the story behind it remains unclear. Combined, his sentences mean that, under Texas law, Tay K won't even be eligible to ask for parole until he's middle-aged, likely in his late 40s or later. By then, the rap world will have moved on, the internet will be different, and the wave created by The Race will be a distant memory. He became famous for a song about running from the police, but in the end, he couldn't outrun the consequences of his actions. The same camera he took in a violent robbery helped give him his biggest hit and helped put him away for what might effectively be the rest of his life. If you made it this far into the video, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about Tay K's case and his sentence. Do you think the time he got was fair or too much? If you want more deep dive stories like this, make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications, and drop a like so this video reaches more people. I've got a lot more crazy cases coming soon, so stay tuned.